Cara, good to see you.
Yeah, you too, Denny. It's great to be here.
First of all, you are the founder of Savvy Wealth,
That's
right?
right, yes.
And then also you empower women around the world to take control of their financial, right? So, and then you have this program that I think, I love alliteration and then acronyms, and I
Yeah,
love this one, Financial Freedom Fundamentals.
that's right, yes.
So we would love to hear more about this program.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really passionate about supporting and empowering women to create financial freedom. And the way that I do that, I'm a big believer in teaching somebody how to do something themselves as opposed to doing it for them. So, what normally happens in the industry is people are like, yeah, I'll manage your money for you, I'll do it for you. You know, you go to someone and they take control of it. Whereas my approach is really around teaching and empowering women to do that themselves because at the end of the day, no one's going to look after our money better than what we are. And we need to have that level of knowledge, that education around it for ourselves to be able to move forward. So that's a big part of what I do is in teaching women how to manage and also invest money themselves.
Amazing. So you basically give them the how to manage the money then rather than just like okay, uh, give them the fish, like
Exactly, yeah.
it's like how to actually catch the fish by investing your money wisely, and then you have to do it and empower yourselves to do it by yourself. So that's empowering. And you are certified financial planner, right?
Yes, so
Okay.
former
Former
certified financial
certified.
planner,
So
yeah.
talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah,
So
so I guess my background, I was a financial planner in Australia, where I would give advice to clients and I would help them predominantly with pre-retirement and retirement planning. And that was great. I loved it. I really loved helping my clients in that way. But again, that's where I was like, well, I want to teach people how to do it themselves. I want to be able to like I think the analogy is, teach a person how to fish rather than give them
the
the fish.
fish, yeah.
So, yeah, I spent a number of years financial planning, and that was where I would give clients advice, based on their goals and objectives, what they wanted to achieve. I would advise them how to achieve that from a financial perspective, how to invest that money. We touched on tax and different ways of doing that.
Amazing, amazing. So you often talk about the importance, right, of creating healthy relationship with money. Now, uh, to be honest, I came in contact with many people, and I myself as well suffered with that, right?
Yeah.
So this relationship between with money. So what are common blocks that you've seen among women, and how can someone start shifting their mindset towards financial empowerment?
Yeah, so it's so interesting that most of us have never sat down and thought about, well, what beliefs do I have around money? What is my relationship with money like? Because it's just something that's not really spoken about. And we can have all the practical tools in the world, but if we don't have a positive relationship with money, then we're going to self sabotage. And what happens is we have this beliefs that we've inherited from our families, from society, and from culture. And we don't even know that we have these. It's so rooted in our subconscious. So during the first 7 years of our lives, we're observing and taking on what our caregivers are saying, doing, the energy, the feeling around the money, whether there's tension around the money. And then moving forward, obviously, throughout our lives as well, society expects different things and portrays different things, as well as expectations from our family, from our friendship groups, from whatever culture we've grown up in. And then we form these beliefs that we don't even necessarily know that we have. And they subconsciously impact what we actually do with money. So the real power and the magic in this is understanding what they are, transforming them if we need to, but we need to partner that with the practical side of things, the tangible side of things. Like we can't just, I always say we can't sit on the beach drinking cocktails and expect money just to pop into a bank account. But we also can't be stuck in the hustle and the how as well. It needs to be a combination, a synergy of both, and understanding those beliefs, because if we've got this belief that we're only ever going to have enough, or subconsciously we believe that if we have more money then it's going to be taken from us because that's what happened during our upbringing, then that's what's going to play out in our lives. Unless we identify that, we become aware of it and we actively try to change it.
Amazing. So to solve the problem, you have to know what the problem is, right? So it's
Exactly.
okay. What are the blocks that holding
Yeah.
me from achieving the financial freedom? What are my relationship? How I really love what you're saying there. It's like sometimes it's subconsciously, it's been conditioned
Yes.
subconsciously, and then as a result of that, sabotaging all the like the success
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we want, and or relationship even.
Mm-hmm.
It's so I'm curious, like how do you help someone get out of that?
Yeah. So the very first step is the awareness piece.
Mm-hmm.
We're not aware of, we can't heal, we can't change. So it's actually going back and looking and writing down, what's my earliest memory around money?
And
What happened during my childhood? What happened at key points throughout my life? And that helps us identify, and see patterns.
Right.
Once we list that out, we can see the patterns that are playing out in our lives around money. And then it's around, well, what's a more empowering thought? What's a more empowering belief? What can I choose? How can I choose differently in these moments? But then again, it's also coupling that with the financial education, because a lot of these beliefs stem from not understanding or having the education and the knowledge about what to actually do. So it's the practical element as well.
amazing. So this is where you step in and then helping
Yeah.
them
Yes.
around the
Yeah.
education, around the money. Amazing. So financial freedom is a goal for many, like
Yeah.
everybody. That's the financial
Exactly. Yeah.
freedom, right? But the path can seem overwhelming, the idea of like the work that you need to put in, right? So I'm just curious, what are the first key steps someone should take that can take to build financial independence? And you talk about also passive income.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the first thing is to actually define what it means to you, define what success looks like to you, define what your values are and the bigger picture, because having vague goals means you're not going to reach your goal. So just having a goal of, I want to make as much money as possible, or I want to be rich, or I want to be wealthy, or I want to have passive income, well, you haven't defined that, like how
How
much. And
much?
what do you want to do with your time? Where do you want to live? What environment do you want to be in? Like, we have to be super specific about these things, because if we don't know where we're going, we're not going to get there, for one. But two, it's very easy to get derailed along the way. And so defining that up front really helps inform your financial decisions, because if your value is freedom and independence, and I see this in Australia and the Western world a lot, where there's this almost societal expectation you have to own property. It's like a rite of passage. You haven't made it unless you own property. Well, that's only one way to build wealth. And in actual fact, if your goals are freedom and independence, that can be at a detriment to actually building freedom and choice and independence in your life. So it's around aligning that, but
Yeah.
you just have to define what financial freedom means to you first, what success looks like, because then that helps determine the path that you take. Whereas, some people really value safety and stability, and they want to live in a certain area. They don't want to move, and then it's around, well, okay, what's a sensible or appropriate level of debt to have a property in that area if that's what you would like to do. So it's just getting so crystal clear on what it is that you want to achieve. And then to go to the second point of, yes, it can feel very overwhelming when you feel like financial freedom's over here and you're way back here. But it's like anything. You need to set like manageable steps along the way. And we met at Nirvana, and I learned
Yes.
this from you as well. It's like setting those smaller goals and enjoying the journey to get to the end. It's like I'm not about to walk in and do a chin up or a muscle up day one. I've got to do everything in between. And the same applies to creating passive income, financial freedom, right? Like I can't get to $100,000 a year of passive income until I get to $1. $100, $1,000, $10,000. So
I love
set
that.
those smaller, more manageable goals,
Yeah.
and also know where you're at. If you don't even know your starting point, if you don't know where your money's going, how are you going to get there? It can be scary for some people to look at that, but you have to know where you're at. And if that's negative, that's okay. It's just information. But then it's about what steps you put in place to overcome that and to change that moving forward.
I love that, Cara. I can resonate it with what you said there, because the problem is not about making money, it's about managing the
Yes.
money that you have. And I also love this book. I read the book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and also the cash flow. And that book kind of like helped me understand what passive income or what financial freedom was all about. Where he said it's basically your passive income greater than your active income. So set a goal to have your passive income to be greater than your active income. Now, in my case, it's like I work for a company, and then it's active. I have to be there all the time, and they gave me salary every month, and so I say, okay, this is my salary every month, and this is active. I have to be there. And what are passive income? Could be come from a book, could be come from a property that you invest in, or so. Okay, and for me, it happened that through property. And I really love what you said about start small. You don't have to go big, but you start small with just $1. And I remember my first passive income coming in. It was like 200, like 200K. It's like $20, 20 less than $20. And then I was like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. And then from that one, because you have that confidence, and then you can see how it works, and then you have the motivation to do more. So is that what you were trying to?
Absolutely. It's like not only that, it builds confidence in your own ability, but also then over time compounding begins to work its magic. And so compounding is where your earnings will create more earnings, which create more earnings. And at the beginning, it might feel like you're not really making any progress, but it's the combination of that, because when you're investing and for passive income, time is your biggest ally, but it can also be your biggest detriment, because the longer we wait, the more of our own funds we have to contribute. And we have less time for it to be able to compound and grow over time.
Right.
So use time as your ally as opposed to against you by starting as soon as you possibly can. So start now, and don't be like, well, I should have started 10 years ago. Well, the next best time is now. And none of us know how long we have. And I guess that's the ultimate question, is like, how much is enough? How much money do we need? Because we don't know how long that needs to last. And so utilize time to your benefit by starting straight away, because then compounding will take over after a while and make more money for you. Amazing. That's really the power of investing, the power of creating passive income.
Yeah. Really love that. There's a saying, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now.
Now.
So you have to do it now.
Absolutely. There's no time like the present.
Powerful. You coach people through transforming their money stories. Yeah. And also, you already touched on the early beliefs and societal influences shape our financial mindset. So, how can you rewire that narrative, like that voice is inside your head, to achieve this financial success?
Yeah, so it's a combination of obviously becoming aware of it first and then actively choosing a different thought, actively choosing a different belief, but also actively choosing a different behavior and taking different action. So when you're in a moment where you potentially would let's say you're going to spend money that you don't have. It's like, well, what's the trigger here? How can I pause? How can I choose a different action as well? How can I change my perspective on things to um, to view the future as being as important as the present and building for that? So it's reprogramming from a mindset perspective, but also that needs to be followed up with taking different
Taking
actions.
different actions, yeah.
Because unless we take different actions, we're not going to actually change our behavior.
You're right. Do you believe in the power of affirmation?
I do, yeah.
Do you
Absolutely.
have a money affirmation that you can share with us that maybe we can use?
Yeah, definitely. The more money I have, the more people I can help. The more money I have, the more of service I can be. It's safe to have money. It's safe to be wealthy. I deserve to have money. I deserve to be wealthy. I'll do good things with money because I think there is this underlying belief for a lot of people that it's bad to have money, that it's greedy to have money, that makes you a bitch or money hungry or whatever it may be. But it doesn't actually, because whether we like it or not, money is what enables choice and freedom. And trust that it's going to make you more of who you already are. So if you're a good person and you want to help and you want to support and you want to do good things, then it's going to enable you to do that on a bigger scale, like exponentially. Because if you're in scarcity, if you're barely getting by, you're actually no good to anyone. You actually can't help anyone.
Yeah, and I love what you said there, because what I really love about you is that you're consistent in the way you show up, because I know you for a few years now.
Yeah.
In your personal life, in terms of like health, how you show up and all. And then the fact that you came to Peduli and also you generously giving your time. I remember when we started with the backyard and you were there. We were teaching these kids with, you were there, and that's the power of wealth can, bring into like financial freedom can help a person to do good things in the world. And then you are the living breathing example of that, and I see that because I've known you for years, and thank you. Yeah, that's very empowering. So if someone, let's say, struggling with fear around investing or money management, right, uh, what are some practical strategies they can use to become more confident and make informed financial decisions?
Yeah, so I really truly believe this comes down to a financial education piece, because unfortunately it's not taught in schools. We're not taught how to do this, and we get a lot of conflicting information. From the media, there's a lot of sensationalized information, and when we actually look at the facts, so if we look at investing in the share market, over the long run, the statistics and the probability of you losing money, and when I talk about long run, I'm talking about decades or generations. We are not talking about years. That's very important to remember, because we all have such a short-term focus now. But the chances or likelihood of losing money is actually very small. if you have a diversified portfolio. So that education piece, when you actually look at it, it's around, well, actually, the risk in doing this is quite small, and then we also look at the risk of not doing it. And what a lot of people don't realize is that risk is not meeting your goals. That risk is even being in poverty in retirement, because we can't rely on governments anywhere now to support us, at that time. And like I said before, none of us know what's going to happen. If we're not going to be able to work, if we're not going to be able to generate an income, and obviously at some point in time, we're going to want to stop trading time for money. And for me, like, that's obviously as early as possible.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for some people, they're 65, 70, 75, and if you haven't thought about this, if you haven't done this, you're literally going to be in a situation where you can't stop working. And that's no way for anybody to live. So it's understanding risk. It's understanding what is the risk return, but also the risk of not doing anything is actually far greater than doing something. But having the education around diversification and asset allocation and different levels of risk, and just looking at the data behind it as well.
Yeah. Powerful. Thank you. So in your program also you emphasize aligning wealth building strategies with one's values, and I love that.
Yeah.
Right? It's really powerful. So how can people ensure that their pursuit of financial freedom also aligns with their personal and ethical values?
Yeah, so I touched on this a little bit before, and it's really around, first of all, people need to identify what their values are. A lot of people don't even realize that. And so for me, my biggest values, and a lot of my clients, it's freedom and independence. Also health and wellness. So it's around aligning your flow of money with that. And that's not only how money is flowing out, but how it's flowing in as well. So, a great example is, I value health and wellness, and a lot of people do, and so you would flow money into like a really good gym membership or something that is valuable to you. Whereas somebody who doesn't value that as much may not spend, flow as much money into that. But also, if one of your highest values is family and you do want safety and stability, then really look at the level of debt that you go into to have a property in a particular area. Because if that means that you have to work more hours, that you spend less time with your family, you're not actually aligned with your values of family, of having that time with loved ones. So once you know what those high values are, you can then look at your financial decisions and make sure that they're aligned, because this is where we get like these inner conflicts when we've made financial decisions that aren't aligning with our values, and we're like, well, now I feel stuck and I feel like I have to do this, but it's not actually bringing me joy and happiness.
Amazing. So when you talk about values, for me in my mind, the way I picture values is like there's something that you do. Like for example, you go to the gym, you actively manage your money, teach people about money. So that means your value about those things, the things that you do. Because a lot of people that I came in contact with, even my clients, they say, oh, I value this. But then you look at their daily action is incongruent with what they said that they value. Like, for example, they value financial freedom, but the way they live their life is not congruent with that. They would spend more than they earn, and they don't even have the money management system. So you're right. So it's to know your value is just look at the things that you invest your money into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can look at what you've spent over the last 90 days and I can tell you where you'll be in the next year or the next 2 years, and I can tell you what you value. And this can be quite confronting for a lot of people, but that incongruence, that's what creates this inner conflict in our minds, and that's what really impacts our mindset, because we're not doing what we say that we
Yeah, we
value.
value.
We're not doing what we say is important to us. And sometimes, you know, a lot of people don't even realize that this is what they're doing. And they shy away from actually looking at what's going on. But it's around how can I remove the emotion from it. And this is also really important with investing because we are our own biggest enemies. And it's not what the market does.
Yeah.
It's the actions that we take in those moments.
That's so
Because
good. Yeah.
the market is going to fluctuate. That's what it does.
Yeah.
But it's whether we sell in those moments that's going to make a difference to our long-term plan.
Right.
And if we're a long-term investor, short-term fluctuations shouldn't matter. But that's very easy to say until you've been in that moment. And you need to be very self-aware of what you're doing in those moments.
Amazing. So, what's your last piece of advice for the our audience here around financial freedom?
Yeah,
It's a practical step that they can take.
So my biggest piece of advice is use time as your biggest ally. And that means you need to take action now, whatever that may look like to you. So that might be as simple as actually looking at where you're at. Look how much money you have coming in, how much money you have going out, but also look at your net asset position, your assets minus your liabilities. When I talk about assets, I'm not talking about cars or bikes or toys, assets. Or it might be around committing to investing. It might be around committing to a savings goal, committing to reducing debt. So actually look at something and take some practical action in that respect.
Powerful. Where can they find you if they were to want to work with you?
So I'm mainly on Instagram. So savvy.wealth on Instagram. That's where I hang out most of the time.
Great. Thank you so much, Cara, for your time.
Eddie.
Really appreciate your knowledge, your wisdom.
Thank you for having me. And thanks for everything that you do as well.
You're welcome.
Thanks.